All right, so there's a million places to start, a billion, a trillion, infinite. It's so funny when people say infinite because infinite is really just numbers bigger than we can comprehend. Like, infinite is practical. Like in mathematics, the concept of infinity is practical when you're dealing with real numbers. Oh. There are many sophistications within mathematics that allow us to deal with non rational real numbers. What's often left out of that is that all real numbers in the real world, as we deal with them, are truncated, even in encryption. Encryption is not based on infinity, nor can encryption ever be. Um, like perfectly. There's no such thing as perfect infinity. There's theoretical infinity. There is perfect infinity theoretically. But what that always means is that things are coming to a point. Things are coming to a threshold. Because all real numbers in reality truncate and collapse at a point of resolution. Pi, an infinite number, because it has infinite resolution theoretically, but it's not even theoretically. Because theory should also be built upon the world. I guess it's more correct, for instance, real numbers real numbers are real theoretically. Real numbers exist theoretically. And we confuse the term theoretic with abstract. Factually, actually, definitively, abstractly, not theoretically, abstractly, numbers are infinite. Full stop. It depends how we define our words. And I'm using more or less the colloquialisms of the modern day to describe those terms. More or less. They can be refuted easily by those who are well versed in dictions. I've brought a knife to a gunfight by saying such things. But you know what? 1 out of 100 times, the guy with the knife beats the guy with the gun. Just saying. And I'm also not even saying that's right. So if in your mind I win this argument, do more research, because I'm probably wrong. According to who? I don't know. But yeah, maybe it's more correct to say that infinity exists abstractly, not ideally. People confuse the infinity of abstraction with the infinity of idealism, while they also confuse it with theorism, theoretically. It's also funny that theoretically actually is related to the word theocracy. Like, theoretically, wait, what are we saying when we're saying theoretically? Theory. The theory of this, the theory of that, the law of this, the law of that, the law of thermodynamics, the theory of evolution. What are we saying when we say those words? What do we mean etymologically? What do those words mean? And actually, yeah, this is the first time in my life where I've recognized that the first 4 letters of the word theory are theo, which means in Greek, God. But there are many words in Greek that mean God. And there are many words in Greek that are translated into English as the word God, and Hebrew, and Egyptian, or whatever. It's so hard to bridge these divides, and that's one of the beautiful things about bridges. Bridges between countries, bridges between nations, bridges between states, bridges between provinces, a collaboration between. That's the thing. If you border a state or a province or a nation, ultimately it has to do with the landmass, but it also has to do with the ideology, the ideation, the idea. It has to do with the different ways that each nation, each state, each province, each place, on this side of the river, on that side of the river, on this side of the mountain, on that side of the mountain, etc. On this side of the ocean, on that side of the ocean. Yet, we share this proximity. We share the shared space. And sometimes the shared space that we share is this big. And sometimes the shared space that we share is this big. And sometimes the shared space that we share is this big. Way big. All right. I'm going to cut that off because what I wanted to get to was the second sentence of the Bible. Why do I want... What kind... Have you ever heard anybody say this before? And the only reason I'm bringing it up, not that it's my thing or whatever, it's just I haven't heard anybody talk about it, and I'm concerned with it. And I haven't heard anybody talking about it. And it's not coming up in the conversations that I'm concerned with. As it so happens, the first sentence of the Bible is the most important. And when I say the Bible, I mean like more or less the Bible that more or less most of us can kind of agree upon. That's all I mean. Which is more or less a book you can hold in your arms. You can hold 2 of them. So yeah, the first sentence of the Bible is actually the most important, but the one I am most concerned with recently, when I say recently, I mean over the last 2 years. And it's been a crazy 2 years. And the only reason I have 2 these are my favorite 2 hardcover Bibles, not because I'm like so in depth and I've read 50 hardcover Bibles, but like I've had several hardcover, actually trade paperback. These are trade paperback, which is my favorite form of a book. I don't like paperback. I don't like hardback. Hardback? Bullshit. Paperback? Bullshit. Trade is the best kind of book. It's the right size. It has the right floppiness. It's strong enough. It's efficient to produce. It's the best kind of book. Paperbacks should be banned and hardcovers should be banned. They are useless. Trade paperback is the best kind of book. That's just my opinion, and it's a really good opinion for this day. Magazines, cheap magazines, and cheap trade paperback. Trade paperback. Best books, in my opinion. Whatever. That's just a side note. But anyway, this is King James. My grandmother gave me this book. It had a Holy Bible written on it, and she gave in the book it came with these like little like scratch off gold leaf letter things. So like at one point my name, oh yeah, you can almost kind of see it there, Jeff. It was like this thing you'd put on this little sheet and you'd scratch it on the J, and then you'd move it over to the E and you'd scratch it and it would transfer the letters. So at one point this was as prominent as this, but over the years it's worn off. But it hasn't completely worn off, which is kind of cool. 30 years ago, or whenever my grandmother gave this to me. I'm not sure if there's a note in her from here. Let's see. I wrote it. Yeah, 1990. Christmas, 1990. To Jeff Fournier from Marion Wright, Christmas 1990. I wrote that. Not her. It's when I was in the midst of my cursive evolution. So my cursive doesn't look the same now as it looked then. But also it was far along because I'd been at that point doing cursive for at least 4 or 5 years. 3, 4, 5 years. So I have other cursive before that looks different. But anyway. All I wanted to get to was, this is terrible. All I wanted to get to was this Genesis 1:2. But I'm going to have to go through Genesis 1:1, which everybody has heard. When you hear Genesis 1:1, it's like the off switch to the logical mind. Like, if you're a logical person, as soon as you hear, this is one of the pieces of magic in the book. One of the time capsule pieces of magic in the book. Because you could argue for somewhere between 5 and 2,000, for the last 5,000 years. And if you're talking about the Holy Bible, Genesis, at least for the last 5,000 years, definitely for the last, undoubtedly for the last 1,300 years, most likely probably for the last 5,000 years. Undoubtedly for the last 3,800 years. I'll annotate it later where I'm wrong in the comments. And undeniably for the last 2,000 years. The statement I'm about to read, Genesis 1:1, has been dominant, but it has dulled to our ears. We're so accustomed to hearing it, it turns us off. But now we're in the age where when we hear it, we're going to get turned on, because now we're going to be enlightened to Genesis 1, 2. Because here's the thing. All right, here's Genesis 1, 1 from the King James Version. I'll get to other versions. You know, Matt, I think it's Matt Whitmore, might be Matt Whitman. He's the best at breaking down Bibles that I've seen. 10-minute Bible Hour. He's also on the podcast. No, I think it's called No Dumb Questions. Anyway, 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. It's like an arrow through our ears. Boom, boom. It comes in one side, goes out the other, and it doesn't kill our brain. It's the most important thing that has ever been stated. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. It's the most important thing that has ever been stated. But it goes right through our ears because we've heard it a gazillion times. And we've heard it by good people, and we've heard it by bad people. This would be an interesting experiment. This would be an interesting poll. If you hear those words, what do you think? And if this thing is true, so to speak, this thing, the words you can hold in your hand. That's one of the things about the Council of Nicaea and the timeline surrounding that period, like, is so important. Because people condemn the Catholic Church for, like, saying what is and what isn't in the gospel. When we're talking about the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, never mind the Gospel of Judas, or, you know, etc. The Pearl. But one of the pieces of magic of the Bible is that for 2,000 years, well, it was codified in mythology, within ritual, within rite, within tradition. It was codified into a book until the time came when it could be that thing that the church said, this is, could finally be printed and carried around in your hands. People don't realize how important the technology. A book is a technology. It's so important. And the most famous book in the world is this. And why did the Council of Nicaea happen? Counter to popular, very popular belief. The Council of Nicaea didn't happen to say what was and what wasn't among the scriptures. It was meant to boil that broth into a gravy. The purpose of the Council of Nicaea, etc., St. Nicholas, the whole bag, the Arian versus Nicholas, all that. The whole thing of it was to boil it down into something you could carry in your hands. And it wasn't meant to set aside the Apocrypha as non-biblios. It was meant to preserve the Apocrypha. the Apocrypha wouldn't be here if 2000 or 1700, whatever, years ago. Because that's the thing. 2,000 years ago, these texts I would have had to carry like this because the paper was thicker, the paper was more brittle, it was in scrolls. I would have had to carry a whole bag. But now I can carry a bag and just put this in it as a little thing. This technology isn't the end of the story. But this technology, a book, it was written in the church. It was written in the tradition 2,000 years ago so that it could be written in a book 1,700 years later or 1,400 years or whatever that you could carry so that 250, 300, 400, 500 years later, it could be like I'm recording this on a phone that is smaller than this book that has billions of times more information about this book than this book has. That's the progression. It's a technology that's it's not meant to be undermined. It's not meant to be overcome. It's meant to be augmented. Anyway, I'm getting off the point, but I'm glad I made that note because maybe I'll come back to it later. People disregard Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Yeah. What a stupid, primitive way of thinking. Wait. The next sentence. Wait. I'm gonna get you. I am gonna get you. You think I'm not gonna get you. I'm sorry for being like this about it. God got me on this one. And I'm just saying, I'm passing it along from God. I'm trying to do a favor. I know I'm taking too much credit for myself. God, thousands, millions, billions people reading this stuff, and it's like, and now I'm here like, but, right, I failed in every single aspect of my life. I have failed, over and over again, forever. I'm a failure. And yet God still has mercy on me. God gave me the gift of faith. And when you're given the gift of faith, it's the worst gift you could ever be given. It's not what people think. It's horrible. For those who succeed at accepting the gift of faith, mercy is the prize, not heaven. Though heaven may come from the gift of faith by God's mercy, but it may not. Such is the gift of faith. Even on the way to hell, you fight for God and God alone. And when I'm fighting for God, what do I see? When I fight for God, what do I see? Even on my way to hell, dying for God, what do I see? I see God happy because he's dancing with Mary, the only thing God ever wanted. The only thing God ever wanted was Mary. Never forget that. That's my opinion, and a pretty damn good one. But, okay, this whole video, the only thing I'm trying to get to is Genesis 1:2. The second sentence of the Bible. And the earth was without form and void. Let's see in this King James version. Are my eyes my eyes are getting a little worse, but it looks like Genesis 1:2. And the earth was without form and void, semicolon. And darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. Now later on, God talks about separating the waters from the waters, and we'll get to that. Genesis 1:1. In the beginning. Alright, I probably won't get to the other book I was talking about. The book, which is this is a King James version. That's a New Living Translation version, but it's a special iteration of the New Living Translation version. But I think there's enough here where I can just leave it here. In the beginning, God created the heaven. And also, like, I'm not excluding other. There's like so many translations. And of course, you got to get into the Strong's Concordance. You got to get into the Bible Hub. And you got to get into the Blue Letter Bible. My favorite's Bible Hub. Even though Bible Hub is harder to access, like audio, or at least in my experience, compared to Blue Letter Bible. But like Blue Letter Bible has better audio, but Bible Hub has better references, sources, interactivity. First sentence of the Bible. It goes in one ear and out the other, like an arrow that doesn't pierce the brain. It's magic. It's fucking perfect magic. And it is magic, right? If we see a magician stick an arrow in one ear and it comes out the other, that's magic. But it's not. There's some kind of trick, whatever. Most of the time. But this is a 2,000-year-old time capsule. Because in common parlance, we might say, proof's in the pudding. That's what I've been saying for years. Proof's in the pudding. But upon just a little bit of research, I found that the actual quote is, the proof of the pudding is in the tasting. So, before we get right, so we say, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And everybody who's scientific says, no. Okay, fine. It's gone one ear and out the other. Fine. Let's look at the second sentence. I'm going to get you on this one. And actually, not even the whole second sentence. Just the first third of the sentence before the semicolon. It's one of the most profound and telepathic, uh, uh, prophetic statements ever, ever, ever uttered. The second sentence of the Bible. The first sentence, hokey pokey, ookie dookie, right? But the second sentence brings perspective on the first sentence. I'm not going to get into that today, maybe tomorrow. But I want to just talk about this first third, more or less, of the second sentence of the Bible. Of the Bible! The Bible! Second sentence. Very important. Got the formalities out of the way, out of the first sentence. Hello, everybody. And it was nice. Didn't talk about us. Didn't say y'all motherfuckers. In the beginning. Okay. Skip right over. Second sentence. First third of the second sentence. And the earth was without form and void. Wait. Let me say that again. And the earth was without form and void. Wait, let's go back to Genesis 1:1. Wait, what did it say? I thought I knew what the earth was. I thought I knew what the earth was. I thought I knew what the earth was. Here we are on the earth. God separated the heaven from the earth. Well, like the heavens, the up above, but like then there's the inner heavens and the depths of heavens, and then like the outside realms, the inside, the twisted, the braided realms, the hokey pokey, the hibby dibby, hibbity dibbity, the hippy dippy, the lovey dovey, the good stuff, the realms of experience. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. What's heaven? What's earth? Well, we think we know what earth is. And all of us have an idea of what heaven is, and we either believe that idea or we don't. But then, the next thing, in the Holy Bible, the next words. And the earth, what image comes to mind when I say earth? And there are many images that might come to, earth, soil, earth, the globe, the planet, right? Earth. Well, what did it mean then? What does it mean now? It doesn't matter either way. These days, some people, when they think earth, they see one thing that people 2,000 years ago couldn't have seen. But all the people 2,000 years ago, when they thought the word earth, would have seen something that most likely most people don't see, but some do. But anyway, that's a separate topic. And the earth, so you're thinking of one thing when you hear that word earth. And the earth was without form. Now, if we stop there at the comma, without form, comma, and void, semicolon, which might as well be a period because there was no punctuation in the original, which meant it all bled together as you read it. The best book ever written would be, because there are books where you turn pages and there are scrolls where you turn pages, but it's always a page. The best scroll in the world would be a linear thing where it's one sentence, the entire book. One sentence, the entire book. So it's a scroll that's this thin and this big around. It's a scroll this big around that's Just one sentence, one idea, without stopping. Ugh, this is terrible. But and the earth was without form. If Genesis 1:2 had stopped there, it would already 2,000 or 5,000 years later, it already would have been earth-shattering. But then, to put a comma and say, and void, centerless, empty. What's that got to do with anything? The proof's in the pudding. No. The proof of the pudding is in the tasting. I'm quoting Dave Mustaine now. Time has a way of taking time. Loneliness is not only felt by fools. Why has this book lasted so long? So that it could prophesize. It is prophecy. It has prophesized. So I don't need to go further. I don't know. Right. Here's the thing. I don't know what heaven is. If I believe in heaven, I don't know what it is. If I don't believe in heaven, I don't believe there is a heaven. Earth. Whether you believe in heaven or you don't believe in heaven, you believe in earth. Most people believe in a loosely, roughly spherical earth. Some people believe in a flat earth. Some people believe that we're in a simulation of the earth. But no matter how you slice it, everybody believes in earth. We are here, however that may be. But most people think of earth as a planet. Most people. Planet, dirt, rock, molten center, sun, moon, solar system, Milky Way, right? Most of us. Okay. And others of us believe in Earth in different ways, but we still think that the Earth is the Earth. No matter what your take, no matter what your conspiracy, no matter what your worldview, there's a basic agreement on Earth. And even within the fringe ideas of what Earth is, there's still a kind of basic agreement on Earth in so much as the Earth is. It's a thing that we touch. First sentence of the Bible. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Second sentence of the Bible. This is where the earth is defined. God never defines heaven. He talks about it a little bit, or I shouldn't say, his prophets or whatever. We misinterpret heaven. And a lot of people talk about that. But nobody talks about the way in which we misinterpret the earth. And the solution to the way that we talk about heaven. Because when God created when God separated the heaven and the earth, it's the yin yang. It's those two little dots inside the yin yang. But then we read the next thing in the most important book ever, the most important communication ever. And the earth was without form and void. So there's no shape and it's empty. When God created the earth, it had no shape and it was empty. Let me say that again. It's in the book. The most important book ever written. Ascribed to Moses. And if it wasn't Moses, it might as well have been. Right. Certainly caught up with Egypt and everything else. Kemeton, all that. It's all sewn in. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. So we're thinking like heaven and earth. Second sentence. First third of the second sentence. And the earth was without form and void. Here's the clincher. Here's the conclusion. You know. Here's all I was trying to get to. I'm sorry for being such a dick about trying to drive it home like that, but like, when you look at NASA computer simulations of how the Earth was formed, you'll find that the Earth, in its beginning, didn't start the way we started, but it did. When you look at a NASA animation of the formation of the Earth, it's like all these gases come together, and this is based on physics. All these gases come together, and it's just like amorphous, blobule kind of twirling thing out here and there, this, that, whatever, and there isn't a center. It's like these masses eventually begin to undulate around a center that isn't there. It's empty. It's void. The center that coagulated the earth wasn't there. Yet the earth was condensing away from the infinite toward a thing like a shell around a center it could never touch, escaping an infinity it could never reach. And I'm just dumbfounded that the great poets of the ages have completely abandoned Genesis 1:2. It sounds like you're a loser. It sounds like you come in second place. Genesis 1:2. Well, what about 1:1? 1:1! God separated heaven from the earth. Goes one ear, goes right. You've heard it a billion times. You're deaf to it. You're numb to it. It's like if you're beat on the head with a stick every day, eventually you get this great calcification right here. And it's like you need to be hit on the head every day. God created the heaven and the earth. God created the heaven and the earth. God created the heaven and the earth. You don't even know what it means anymore, because you've been beat over the head so many times with it. Then you get to the second sentence. And the earth was without form and void. And after that many years, Moses, I mean, to me, 18th dynasty. Some people say 19th dynasty. I'm saying 18th dynasty. 18th dynasty Egypt. Back then, long time ago. Of course, the roots of Genesis. Etymologically, or philologically, reach back much further, but and then to one of the best scientific organizations, if not the best scientific organization ever assembled, to make the best educated guess on how the universe as we know it came to create Earth. And they crunch all the numbers and they come up with a picture. And that picture matches perfectly with Genesis 1:2. When we see the earth forming, it didn't have a form. And it was void. It was empty in the middle. Kind of like the eye of a tornado. Exactly like the eye of a tornado. Except for instead of a more or less planar, or what do they call it? Because like a hurricane it's not a plane, like it's three-dimensional, but it's three-dimensional the way a freeze is three-dimensional. Like a tornado, like the eye of a tornado, like the eye of a tornado, or the eye of a hurricane, like calm in the storm, like when you're in the middle, everything's calm. And like a tornado or a hurricane, it's more or less planar, more so with a hurricane. Like it seems more planar, but it's really a freeze. And it's also, what do they call it in math? Like when it's like surfaces. What do they call that in math when it's surfaces? I'm having a wicked huge brain fart right now. I'm being such a dummy. Math, surfaces. Because it's not really planar, it's on a very large curvature that almost seems planar. Versus like the formation of the earth, which is similar except it's in three dimensions, where it's like the calmness in the center of a ball. Like, what was that gathering force? And what was that? Like, there had to be an inward pressure and a gathering center. You need both. You need both. You need that attractive force of the center, but you also need the boundary pushing inward. Yeah, and then later on it gets to God separating the water from the waters. What? And it's just as perfect and perfect. But anyway, so up like the first sentence, Genesis 1:1 is the Big Bang to, roughly 5 billion years ago, I guess. I could have that number wrong. I'll annotate it in the comments if I'm wrong by more than 1 billion years, but like more or less 5 billion years ago, the Earth came to be, which is more or less what they say is like 8 billion years after. So it's like the first part of the Bible, the first sentence of the Bible is the first 8 billion years, because we can't relate to it. We're not going to relate to it. It's unrelatable, except for now. Now we can relate to it. But back when that statement was uttered and inscribed, the things we know now wouldn't have mattered. And then the second thing in the Helios Biblios, the second thing, and the earth was without form and void. And when we watch NASA videos, NASA simulations, purely the best scientists, the best physicists, the best people from the best government in the world. We even stole the bad guy scientists. We steal Chinese scientists, we steal Russian scientists, and God knows we stole all the best fucking Nazi scientists, right? Yeah. Russia took the other best ones too, you know. And it's not like the Nazi scientists wanted to be Nazis. They just wanted to do science. Did we import Nazism from the Nazi scientists? Or did we save scientists from a murderous regime? You know, because we always talk about cowards and those who fight, you know. But yet everybody loves Anne Frank. Maybe, I mean, when I was a kid, nobody talks about Anne Frank these days. We got to bring back Anne Frank Diary, man. We got to bring back the Anne Frank Diary. Anne Frank and the Little Flower. Essential reading. See, that's what I came to today that I would have never guessed. I wondered why I pressed record, because I knew this would be a bullshit fucking terrible, awful fucking video of me just going blah, 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 but I'd never thought of that before. I feel so bad for the Little Flower, Saint Therese, and I feel so bad for Anne Frank. I feel like they both got fucked. They're both revered now. You know, yeah. They fill our hearts with warmth, yet not sufficiently with dread. Yet, it's so... God's trying to split such a subtle hair. We must love the Little Flower, Saint Therese, and we must love Anne Frank. We must love them, as we must love Ruth. I prefer Saint Ruth. But it's a hard truth to come to. And it doesn't sit well. It doesn't rest easy. It's terrible. It's fucking terrible. God does everything God can do to protect us from the terribleness of the truth while trying to strengthen us to confront it. God does everything God can do to protect us from the horrible, terrible truth. While at the same time trying to strengthen us to positively affect that truth. I don't want to get too caught up in the philosophy or the theology of it, but like, for instance, people a lot of times throw around the word sovereignty. I mean, if you don't have a PhD and 3 postdoctorates in the etymology of that word and the philology of that word, then what good are you? My bad. Because you're probably better than me.